Hello, what is up every pony and everyone else out there, and I am Starlight Glimmer here, and we are from the likes of, or should I say, I am from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos today. And welcome to you guys out there, welcome to the next installment of my video game collection video. Previously, I think that Sylvester the Cat has already done the PlayStation 1 game collection video. Today, because that usually represents about the fact that, you guys are probably thinking that, yes, we are moving on onto the next video game collection video. And because of that, today, we're going to be tackling through the next PlayStation video game collection video. And before we get into this, you know how recently that the PlayStation 5 has just recently released for about a few weeks ago, despite there are some stalking issues, but we'll just have to wait until when it restocks again. So here it is. Blimey, this is massive. But folks, this is the PlayStation 3. And this machine did first came out, well, specifically, much like the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1, they do have different models as well. But this PlayStation 3 first came out in 2006, I think in Japan, 14 years ago, which is roughly in the 11th of November, 2006. Jeez, can't even believe time it does flies, doesn't it? And there's also the slim version, which as you can see on here, we've got the slim version because, well, I thought it was a little bit nicer with this, even with the matte finish on top instead of glossiness going on. But usually, relatively speaking, that's the system we always prefer. And the slim version came out 3 years later until 2009, and there's also the third variation of the PlayStation 3 called Super Slim, which came out another 3 years later in 2012. Not sure why, but that's how it goes. And this machine for the PlayStation 3 did manage to sell for about, when it launched, it first came out, usually has, the ridiculous amount of pricing. 20 gigabytes, at least we're talking about the original version of the PlayStation 3. That's back in 2006, the pricing for 20 gigabytes is $500 and $600 for 60 gigabytes, which is way too much. But thankfully, during in 2009, when the slim version came around, the price actually drops. And it did manage to got about for its lifespan, it usually lasts for long until 2006 all the way up to 2017 because they're moving forward for PlayStation 4. And also, it's roughly about 11 years since the lifespan is introduced. And according to the actual units shipping or shipped, it's been sold for 87.4 million units sold, as in, well, specifically March 31st, 2017. And the best-selling game of the system, it was obviously Grand Theft Auto 5. And I've heard of it, but I've never actually played it. But I will do it, that might be at some point for PS3 version, but we don't know exactly for sure because the PlayStation 5 version will be later released. So, yeah, that's the PlayStation 3. And of course, this is the first ever PlayStation console able to have HDMI compatibility. And also, it does have backwards compatibility with, well, usually on the original model, it's the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 compatibility. Whilst in a slim version, as you can see on here, the only compatibility of games you can able to get backwards compatibility with is, of course, PS1, which is pretty nice for the time. Jesus Louise, I have to use my hoofs to able to actually pick it up, and then, seriously, this thing is heavy. But anyways, enough about the actual console history, and let's get on with the games. We didn't get that much PS3 games, unlike PlayStation 2, but regardless of such though, we'll might as well get this started. And of course, much like always in any other video game collection videos, is that, well, we'll go for alphabetical order. So let's get to it with the first game we've got for the PS3. Dragon Ball Z Budokai HD Collection, which contains Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1 and Budokai 3, the best Budokai game ever. Not played that much of this though, because usually, relatively speaking, that usually it gets some trophies and all that stuff though. I can definitely see why that Budokai 2 was never been on this list, probably because most people criticizing for, let's just say, they've obviously complained about the forms of the Dragon World mode, which is basically a single-player board game kind of stuff. But when this first came out on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, I was quite hyped about it. But personally, I just go for the PS3 version just because the controls in 2D fighting games has always been superb in my opinion. So yeah, I need to definitely get back into this, specifically Budokai 1. And once I finish Budokai 1, then we can move on to Budokai 3. So yeah, very pleased to have that to my PS3 shelf. DuckTales Remastered, which is basically a remake of the original DuckTales back on the NES days. Yes, it's been made by the same developer, or made the same people, which is, of course, Capcom. Capcom is actually really a huge masterpiece when it comes to Disney games being partnered with, well, Capcom and everything else. I haven't really played that much of it yet, though, either. Probably it's because there's a lot of games I can able to play on any other generations to become. And what I've heard about this game, I was really, really excited because not only because it's a remake of everyone's most fan-favorite Disney platformer games back on the NES days, but it's also one of the greatest games of all time on the Capcom/Disney crossover. So, well, technically a Disney and Capcom game, but either way though, really looking forward to able to get in hands on it though. And of course, everyone is expecting for the Kingdom Hearts fans, Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 Remix, which, if you couldn't tell, it contains Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, and of course a cinematic movie of Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. So, not much to say about this compilation. I mean, usually I love Kingdom Hearts games, and because of this though, I'm really excited to see when this actually turns out back in 2013. And while I didn't get it in day one at first, probably because I didn't have the PS3, but that wasn't until in 2014 came around, which we'll pointing there. Sorry for a little bit of speaking for this point, guys, or ponies out there. But when the next compilation game, which I'll get into later, I actually really enjoyed this compilation. I enjoyed the Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, specifically because it's more of a superior version of the original game in my opinion. Although I haven't really keen on the forms of Rechain of Memories because it's not my style, but at least for story progressioning it makes sense. And also I really enjoy the cinematic movie of 358 over 2 days because it's a very interesting story where it comes to like the relationship between Roxas, Axel/Lee, and also Shion, which I will say looks pretty impressive story in my eyes. But definitely need to get back around to this, even though I've pretty much at the halfway point in Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix on this version, and pretty much watched every single story chapters on this, and definitely need to get around to that eventually. So yeah, I really enjoyed this compilation. But that doesn't stop here, however, though. Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Remix, easily without a doubt my favorite Kingdom Hearts compilation in the entire series, because obviously it contains Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which is perhaps the best Kingdom Hearts game ever made, along with Kingdom Hearts 3, and also Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix as well, and even a cinematic movie of Recoded, which I will say I'm still a little bit disappointed with this story. I mean, it's usually for the continuity or anything, but some parts doesn't make that much sense to me. But apart from those side things, though, this compilation is really, really awesome. Despite there's some slight, significant problems with it, specifically, the problem I have with this compilation is that for Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, specifically, the loading times are really, really dragged on. I mean, usually it's been fixed on the PS4 version, which I'm sure some toys were able to mention more about that when they get into the PS4 collection. And Birth by Sleep is actually not too bad either, especially when you can now finally play it on the home consoles as opposed to the very small PSP analog stick, which that maybe seems the case. And overall, I had a really huge blast with it. Even though I've almost done with Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, I've only got to the point until the world that never was. And also similarly, the side quests alongside with some additional content, and even I'm pretty much slow progressioning when it comes to Birth by Sleep Final Mix, because that is without a doubt one of the hardest games to 100% on because of secret bosses and everything. But oh no, really enjoying it. Need to get back into that at some point. So, which should be expected with most Kingdom Hearts marathons that most people seem to do streams on, including the forms of the dangerous critical mode. Well, that's how it goes basically. J-Stars Victory versus Plus, which is basically it's like a manga and anime mashup crossover fighting game. Didn't play that much of it though. Clearly it's because of how the fact that most people seem to think it's a bit shallow in comparison to any other anime fighting kind of games like this. I've no idea why I got this to begin with. I didn't pay full price for it though, which obviously this in addition to the PS3 release of this game, it also came out on the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation Vita. Now, if I've heard that the Vita version might be the more superior version because you can able to take it on the go, and also because it actually has a RPG element system to the table. And I think that's as far as I can say in terms of this game, even though I barely play it that much because I just think that the actual combat is a bit shallow to me. But the reason why I got this because of Goku and Ariel from the likes of the Dragon Ball Z series. So I'm very quite pleased to have that, I suppose, and also Vegeta and Frieza, as you can see on this little screenshot there. But for curiosity's sake, I just don't know why I've managed to, well, got that game, I suppose. Rio multiplayer party game. You guys should know about this because I think Mario and Luigi has pretty much done this Let's Play back in 2015, but on the Xbox 360 version, because as you can see, this is the PS3 version. I know you guys are thinking about the fact that this is basically a Mario Party knockoff, which is true, but I actually kind of enjoyed it, even though it's actually based off from the movie Rio, which I can't even believe that between the movie and the game, these two are almost an entire decade old, until specifically 2021, which I will say, time does flies. Obviously, our favorite characters are Blue and Jewel, because those are the cool characters throughout the game. And definitely need to get back into this, even though there are some mini games have been cut out, unlike the 360 version, which we'll talk more about it soon enough until possibly next year. But even then, I did enjoy this. Certainly way better than the Wii version, though, because God, the Wii version is awful. Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection, which is an epic collection of over 40 gaming classics, which, to be expected, because the reason why we've got this is because of the Sonic games into this compilation. And had a really huge blast for it. I'm actually on a halfway point in terms of trophy collecting, in terms of this version in particular, whilst on the Xbox 360 version, I've seemed to almost done with the game, even though there's only one achievement left that I haven't exactly got though. But I enjoy most of these Sega Mega Drive games that I've always enjoyed, specifically the Sonic games most likely, and as well as Rise Star and etc. etc. So I definitely need to get back into this on, you know, the trophies support and all that jazz. But hey, at least it's quite fun to play. Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. Now you guys are probably going to say, where's Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing? Well, I'll get to more on that later because this is an alphabetical order. So just to let you guys know. Do enjoy this. I mean, you know, it's actually pretty fun, even though I didn't enjoy it as much as the original though. But at least it's a really awesome racing game still nonetheless. And also much like the Wii U version is that, and also the same applies to the 3DS version as well, that we obviously got the exact same amount of content as any other versions do. And as you can see on screen, that I've managed to get the N-Stell's version of the PS3 version because it cost a bit cheaper than when it first came out back in day one in 2012. But either way, though, I do enjoy this, though. But I need to get back into this, along with the Vita version, which I'll discuss more about until soon enough. Or even sometimes can able to mention more of that until at some point soon. So yeah, I really enjoyed that specific title. Speaking of Sonic racing stuff, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. Yes, my all-time favorite games in 2010, along with Super Mario Galaxy 2, Sonic Colors, and etc. etc. Although the PS3 version doesn't have that much content, aside from, well, obviously, they obviously contains the exact same roster as the PC version, and while usually for the Xbox 360 version does have two exclusive characters, as well as the Wii version does have one exclusive playable character, which I'm sure Twilight Sparkle has already mentioned about that stuff, and still had a blast of playing this, and still need to like get back into this. If I somehow get bored of certain days, while this year has been super dragged on and just been crap recently, but even then I really enjoyed this. Sonic Generations? Yes, Sonic Generations. What a great game indeed. Even though the story wasn't nearly as fleshed out as the forms of how it does it in Sonic Colors, honestly, but the gameplay itself is magnificently awesome. Like, you can play as classic Sonic for 2D gameplay, and also modern Sonic, heavily inspired by Sonic Unleashed's gameplay style, alongside with Sonic Colors as well, which I always appreciated. And I haven't really played that much of this, unlike the 360 version, which hopefully I'll get around to that at some point, for specifically the trophy support. And overall, I did have a really blast playing this, even for replaying this game time and time again on the 360, while the Xbox 360 version, as well as the PS3 version, because let me tell you, definitely recommend it. It's actually pretty cheaper nowadays. But ultimately, though, you can obviously obtain the PC version, which contains 60 frames per second and no loading times, as well as some cool mods here and there too. Like, for instance, there was the Rainbow Dash mod, Fluttershy mod, and even the Pony mods, if you want to include those. So yeah, you should definitely be very curious to be able to check those out. Sonic the Hedgehog, aka Sonic 06. Everyone seemed to think this is one of the worst 3D Sonic games ever, which I honestly agree, but I don't know. Aside from the soundtrack is always amazing, and the graphics do look a bit passable, even though it feels a bit out of place compared to the forms of the previous Sonic games in the past. But the reason why I've got this is because on the PS3 version, rather, is for curiosity's sake. Even though this version sadly does not have trophies, unlike the Xbox 360 version does have trophies, but I just have no idea why. And I've noticed that the frame rate is actually a bit worse than the forms of how it does it on the 360 version. And also, the loading times tend to take about like 10 seconds longer than the usual in some parts, and there's no way to able to install the game shorter on them. And the story is an absolute trash, and especially noticeable with how the fact that there are some gameplay elements to frustrate the hell out of me, like Sonic's Mach Speed sections, as long as I'm pretty much okay with it, but usually it just gets a tad bit frustrating for most newcomers out there. And also, the ball puzzle, the infamous section in Silver's Dusty Desert, and overall, it's just not that good of a game. It's not that good. Sonic Unleashed for the PlayStation 3. I almost said the Xbox 360 version for a moment. Yeah, much like the Wii and the PS2 version, I pretty much got this version for the same reason. And also because it does have trophies in there, thankfully. And also, if you probably noticed, is that this game came out, this version of Sonic Unleashed came out a month later compared to the forms of the three versions on the Wii, PS2, and the Xbox 360 release. I have no idea why. I'm guessing they might as well able to improve the frame rate, and especially noticeable with the different loading times as well. But apart from those side things, though, I had a really good time on this version of the game. I think, to me, though, this is a more of a superior version of Sonic Unleashed, in my opinion, than the forms of how it does it on the PS2 version in my eyes, because, well, I don't mind the Wii version, as so you can play the GameCube controller, but apart from those side of things, though, this version is a must-buy, even for... This might actually be one of the hardest 3D Sonic games ever, if you're trying to 100% it. And lastly, in terms of physical PS3 stuff, Toy Story 3. Much like Toy Story 2, I pretty much got this game for the sake of, well, for one thing only, that is playing as Zurg, as in the PS3 version. I actually really enjoyed this, even though that usually, relatively speaking, is based off from Toy Story 3, which I can't even believe this game, along with Toy Story 3, has now become 10 years old. Jesus Christ, man. Anyway, sorry for this language, but at least it's, well, bloody time flies. But anyway, and I actually enjoyed this game, and I can definitely need to get back into this at some point if I do manage to get enough time for it, especially noticeable from some distractions usually aside. But anyways, that's a really cool game, especially with the ability to play as Zurg. It's always an awesome feature. But if you manage to purchase the Wii version or the any other versions for that matter, you can't play as him, sadly. But at least that's something, alright? So before we end things off for the entire collection video, let me give you guys one last honorable mention, and that was the forms of, well, as you can see, I put my PS3 turned on, so even then though, because of that though, much like the PlayStation 1 collection, I will be showing you guys the digital downloads for my PlayStation 3, so even then though, I was able to get my controller up, and apologize for that lighting, and also you can see that cool background right here, because I just watched the movie recently. Because I just don't feel like getting bored for the whole year. So anyways, here's the PlayStation 3 downloadable stuff that I've got. So here we go, starting from top to bottom. So here we go, we have Sonic Adventure for the PlayStation 3. An alright version, but I still prefer the Dreamcast version over a bit more than the likes of the HD version because the graphics still look a bit awfully plastic around here. And, all in all, a really good game. Or the good version, I should say. Sonic Adventure 2, a really, really good game as well. Even though some people complain about the sound mixing issues, is annoyingly loud whenever you watch certain cutscenes and all that stuff though. Which I must admit though, that's how there is to it. But at least the widescreen is actually really, really good though. 16.9 is impressive. So anyways, Space Ace, not much else to say. It's basically based off from the arcade game, which I always had a good time with that. And similarly for both Dragon's Lair 1, which has always been a good time, and Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp, which is also great. And now we come to the rest of the Sonic the Hedgehog stuff, during at the end anyway. Sonic the Hedgehog, speak for itself. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, pretty much the same deal. And Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1, an alright game, but not the best either. And Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 2, a little bit better than Episode 1, but lacking originality aside. And Sonic CD, one of the greatest versions ever for Sonic CD out there. And finally, Night Ninja Dreams, which is always a nice little game to able to play around with on, it doesn't matter what consoles you're playing. So there you go guys, that was our video game collection video for our PlayStation 3 here. Even though it's not much, but hey, at least I did manage able to replay those games from time to time. So I hope you guys do enjoy this particular video game collection video. This is me, Starlight Glimmer here from the Maxi Toys. And until then, next up, in terms of the video game collection video series, next up it will be the PlayStation 4. So I hope you guys do looking forward to that, specifically this Friday, because it's going to be a double video game collection videos this week. So look forward to that. So I'll see you guys then. And ponies out there, bye.